I'm Marine, and I lead the practice leadership advisory and performance for Taplow in France. And I also support other Taplow team members whenever needed on this topic, and I support the development of these items across the group. Emma is pushing the topic around diversity and sustainability across Taplow Group. And actually, sustainability is not about only sustainability for the environment, about carbon and stuff like that. It's actually also about sustainability of our human resources, not only natural ones. And this is what I would like to focus the discussion about today, and have you reflect actually on how what I'm going to present to you now can actually be incorporated in the way we lead our own organizations, our own Taplow, and how we could actually incorporate that into our recruitment process, executive interim process, and even thinking about how we could offer something to support our client as well on this topic. So I would like to start with one statement from the World Health Organization saying that health is a complete state of well-being, and it means physical, mental, and social. And that's already the first ground base I want to give you here. And first of all, give you some definitions. You might already have heard about psychosocial risks or quality of working life or well-being at work. And I want to start first to give you the definition of each of these items, because they are some differences, and that would then lead to which angle we are going to tackle the topic when we discuss with our clients. So why, first of all, should we, Taplow partners and our client, focus on psychosocial risk, on well-being, and so on? First of all, psychological distress at work is actually steadily increasing, and it has done so during the recent years. We also see that in some areas, 50% of the workers in industrialized countries, they report that they have work-related stress. We see also that psychological risks, they are both a public health issue and a workplace health issue. And it has even increased, and it has even gone worse after the COVID health crisis. What we see is that companies and organizations today, they are not sufficiently aware of the prevention. So usually they wake up and they react when it's already there and they have hit the wall, or the crisis is already there. And they don't understand, a lot of them are not well aware on the importance of investing before you get there, and to invest in prevention. They also don't have the feeling on the economic impact it has on their organization. And this is something we are going to see in the few slides I'll present to you. Oops. So first of all, if I give you some key figures, in Europe, the hyperstress is actually the #1 occupational health risk. We also see that 22% of the employees, they suffer from stress. If we look as well, there are 30,000 cases of severe burnouts that are reported in Europe each year. And looking at how much it represents, that might represent 617 billion. Looking only at absenteeism and presenteeism, it represents 272 billion euros. And this number only represents 3 times the budget of the European Commission. So it's a huge amount of money and a huge economical impact. Yeah. Now that I've said that, let's go back to the definitions of the 3 different aspects. So first of all, let's look at what we call psychosocial risks and the prevention of the psychosocial risks. we know that there is a risk to mental health, but it's also physical and social health. And this is caused by risk factors. It could be risk coming from material, from organizational, or even human, like management and style and so on. And of course, this can interact and impair the mental functioning of somebody, raising stress in that person. It should be the duty of each company to actually prevent health disorder for their employees. So prevention of psychological risks is a must. Second level, the quality of life and the work conditions. There, when you look at it, it refers and it includes actions in different areas that would aim to reconcile both the improvement of the working conditions for the employees and the overall performance of the companies. So here we are not preventing the risk anymore. We are looking at how to improve and how to work toward performance. Last but not least, we talk about well-being at work. And here it's focusing more on the psychological aspect, reducing factors of discomfort, but more positively actually to foster the personal fulfillment and the happiness of the people at work. If I zoom in and specifically look at psychosocial risks, actually you can see the following factors that would lead to this psychological risks. It can come from the work demands. It can come from the psychological and emotional demands, depending on the context and the kind of work you do. If you are a first-time responder, if you are working for an ON, a non-profit organization taking care of distressed people, if you are working under pressure, and so on. The autonomy is one risk factor as well. How much autonomy you are given to big extent or to less extent. The social interactions and how you interact with your peers and your customers and your clients. If there is a conflict against your own values, meaning that eventually the values of the company are going against your own, and every single day we are asking to do some things that are going against what you stand for and what you care about. Leadership and management is one. Having unformed leadership, having eventually toxic leadership could be reasons as well. So I'm giving you all the kind of risk and working around PSR, meaning you will work on each of these dimensions and try to improve this to reduce the risks that burnout or any other issues are arising. What is at stake then by working on this PSR? Sorry for the French in the middle. One aspect is human, of course. Looking at what's at stake for the human being, it's better health and well-being for that person, of course. Then there is a legal dimension, because there is an obligation for companies in industrialized country to actually take care and protect health of their people. Then there is, of course, a dimension around employer branding. So the image your company is giving on how well they take care of the employees and how long they stay and so on. So that really increase attractiveness and increase retention once you have attracted the talent. And the third dimension, of course, it's about economical performance, because if you have, then you have less direct and indirect costs due to the turnover, due to the quiet quitting, meaning disengaged people. So then there is a higher performance, then meaning better economical outcomes. If we look more on the direct impact on the performance itself, one book that is well known in this area is The Happiness Advantage from Sean Achor. And a few figures I can give you out of that book is that if you have engaged people that are having high wellness and happiness at work, then you see that they show 37% more successful in sales, that they are 19% more accurate, 3 times more creative, up to 10 times more engaged, and especially that's important facing challenges, facing crisis, and so on. And then 31% are even more productive. All right. If we talk to leadership teams, management, what they will ask is, why should I invest in that? I mean, what's in it for me? What do I gain financially? And here are the list of direct impacts on costs you can actually put on the table. If we look at direct costs that are easy to prove and look at, you have the accidents that are taking place in the organization because people are more risk-taking because they are more tired, they are less careful, less vigilant. You have the defects that can be in production line. You have the absenteeism. You have the occupational disease, the strikes in some countries. And as I mentioned, this quiet quitting that would lead to decrease in productivity, decrease in competitiveness. These are direct costs, and it has direct influence on the financial performance. But actually, you also have indirect costs that they don't realize is coming from there, but it has a direct link. And one could be about higher conflicts because you have a degraded team that doesn't know how to interact anymore together because people are under stress and do not know how to navigate that. It has then an impact on the innovation capacity, an impact on the turnover because people are joining the firm, getting tired and resigning after even before 2 years. And we know that people, it often takes 2 years until somebody is 100% productive in its work, in his job, because he needs to learn and so on. So if they quit before that 2 years, then you are really losing your investment here in recruiting that person in the first place. You have loss of talents on the long run, loss of reputations, and so on. And this of an indirect cost, it's actually a social performance. So at the end of the day, we talk here about sustainable performance for ourselves as employers and for our clients that are asking us to help them hire new people. Okay, yeah. It's nice to say that, but then you're going to ask me, okay, well, what can we do? How do we get there? First of all, rule number one, let's avoid stereotype. Let's avoid social washing. It's not going to help anybody just putting a ping pong table and giving yoga classes. It's nice to have, but that's not the main driver here. There are many companies that will just put that on top and saying, hey, don't worry, we take care of you, we give you yoga classes. But at the end of the day, you've seen the 6 dimension of possible factor of risk, and you've seen that at the end of the day, this is only one part of the whole deal. So if we put that on the side, actually, well-being can be measured and it can be developed. You look at different factors. You can look at the well-being of the individual. You can look at the well-being of the relationship between individuals and the well-being of the whole team. And you can actually have qualitative and quantitative audits to actually look at the different dimensions and what works well and what's missing in the organization, where you have red flags. So you can then have people start to reflect on how they can actually deal with these topics and how they can improve the situation. The map I show you here is one of the framework that one of the psychologist and coach working with us is using. Not Emmanuel, who is present here, but the second one working with us, which is called Pierre-Marie. And he is looking at, first of all the sources of emotional discomfort, and looking at different dimensions like safety, like how people are feeling supported, how they share and they celebrate, how they feel sense of purpose, how they feel a sense of guidance in the rule of the games, in their work, and the direction they have to go, and so on. So we are really evaluating all these dimensions and then reflecting on how to improve. What are the principles of success? If somebody from an organization say, hey, I want to work on it and I want to be successful. So first, okay, you make a diagnostic on what works well and what does not. And then what? The first of all is that the initiative is based on a collective action. It means that every layer of the organization needs to be onboarded in that, every dimension. The direction, the HR, the middle management, maybe the work health entity in the organization, the work council, and so on. So it needs to be a collective approach. Otherwise, if only one area is pushing it, then it's not gonna be successful. Then it needs the support of the top management. So second level is to actually raise the awareness on why they need to invest on it, and that they are actually leading the way and they need to actually be involved in it. Then we need to, of course, assess the risk and the sources of eventually psychological risk through professional diagnostic. This is what I mentioned before. We need to involve people. So it needs to be a participative approach where employees are involved and are coming up as well with their proposals and their solution. And it needs then to be structured in an action plan so they can actually move forward in developing a plan to grow and improve. We need then to support providing professionalized stakeholders and organize a prevention system. And this goes through coaching and training to have guarants of that approach within the organization by providing them the right training level so they know what to do when they detect something. And it's also about training management. On the psychosocial risk is one thing, but also on leadership is another one, because actually if we have good leaders that are having active listening and coaching approach and mentorship approach, it's also one of the risks you are actually reducing strongly. Okay, so now I spoke a lot. I will stop talking. And first of all, I would like to open the round. If you do have some questions, before we open the discussion round, splitting you maybe into two rooms. So or we might stay in one plenary room because we are less people than this morning. But first, questions of understanding. Do you need more information? Is it clear?
Yeah, it's pretty clear. Yes.
It's very good. Thank you, Marie.
It's all there.
You said something in the morning, Mark, about that you also sent over to me. I don't remember what the name.
Figures.
Yeah, there is a online organization, Work L, which stands for Work Life, and they survey people around the world. They've surveyed over 400,000 people in the last 4 months, and from 105 countries. What they're finding is wellness and culture of an organization for 17 to 35-year-olds is the #1 topic of when looking at working for a company. So it's that. Secondly is hybrid working, and third is then pay. But then as you go up the scale to the 45 to 60-year-olds, salary becomes the number one issue for them. But clearly wellness and the culture of an organization that a potential candidate is going to is becoming more prevalent, and them wanting to understand what a company is like before they agree to join. So as we were talking earlier, often clients will ask you about the soft skills of a candidate. Candidates are now asking about the soft skills. They understand the company. A company makes or has XYZ services. It has number of people. It has number of offices. They understand who their client base is, but they want to know now what it is like to work there. And I don't think, if I go back 5+ years ago, we were ever asking a client, what is the culture of your organization? And quite often, I don't think I'm getting an honest answer when I ask the CEO or the head of talent.
Mhm. No. I can
So-
see it have been changed a lot. Can you put the yes? Thank you, Marie.
You want me to put the full? Do you want me to put in
No,
the
I want
questions
to
or
see-
like this?
No, I want to see you. It's easier. It feels like I'm talking to myself. Or no, I'm just agree. And now maybe not in every part of the world is a little bit more tough. It's more. We have more the search. More employees are looking for new job, you can say. So I think it's have been a little bit a change the last year. Before the people between what 20 to 35, I think the salary was quite, because they were quite tough to say yes, I want this and this. But now when it's a little bit more tough, I think the most important what we can see also is that it's important the colleague, the team, how we meet after work and so on. I can see it intern and I can see it extern, that it's important for, if you say younger, the younger generation. But it's also important to listen to each other, and I can't see any age thing in that. It's just human being, like connecting to each other, and that is not an age thing, I think.
I'd be interested to find out from US and Canada in particular. Things have got much tougher here in the UK for employers. Nowadays, an employee has full employment rights from day one, whereas 2 years ago, a candidate could be fired in their first 12 months of joining an organization. And so getting those cultural fits when a candidate is potentially onboarding is critical now to a company. Is that similar issues in Canada, USA?
Oliver,
Go ahead, Sunil.
so I think the firing aspect in the US is at will employment, 2 weeks notice and all that. So I don't think, from an employee standpoint, there is any kind of a protection, at least from that aspect. I also feel that, while it is important aspect of any organization, I think it is seen as if it is the HR's responsibility, and quite often we feel that, especially when we are, engaging with a candidate who are coming from these large consulting firms and who talk about work-life balance, who talk about all of these aspects, the primary reason for somebody to leave at that time is that they want a quality of time with their family. And it's the work-life balance which becomes the most important reason for them to change. And it's the same companies who talk so highly about how their culture and all those things are, so important in terms of their employee welfare, work-life balance, this and that. So I don't know if, it's seemed as it is the HR's responsibility, but not the business owners or hiring managers. I think at every level, if that's the common sort of I think the training is needed for the business leaders and hiring managers more than the ones who are coming in new, because the current generation definitely wants these things and they are very aware about it. But when they get into the organization and they don't see it, there's only
Yeah.
so much that they can complain, otherwise they will leave. And that's why they keep, changing jobs, finding that work-life balance.
Yes.
Yes. And then Sunil, to answer you, basically what we are trying to do now and what we are doing now is we do more and more webinar where we create awareness at the top level.
Yeah.
So we do actually webinar for executives so they understand that that's the cost, the direct and indirect
Mhm.
cost I showed. This
Mhm.
is an organizational problem and not an
Mhm.
HR one.
That's
And,
right.
and so that they understand that the investment needs to be done at all level. And so we did that, for example, in Africa, and we discussed this morning to see if we could do it for our board members and high-level customer in Europe, for example, to provide webinars like that where we create awareness and they realize it's not only HR, because
Mhm.
then the cycle will keep repeating itself, that they find a talent, they hire the talent, and then once the talent becomes productive enough, it's gone.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the rule.
How do you find in Canada, Paul?
We have different provinces, obviously, and some are I'll call it a little more employee centric than others. So it makes, if you're making a change on an individual, a little bit different depending on the provinces. They are skewing things more from a hiring process now towards the candidate versus the employer, but things you can and you can't ask. So even before they decide if they're going to make a change, there's certain things you're allowed to ask them, and that's kind of sweeping across the country. So candidates are getting savvy in terms of compensation and things that they're going to divulge before they even move forward in the process. I think the key things that we still see in the market, why people are making changes, and what I think we've heard a few people speak, like culture and stuff, all are big buzzwords. Inevitably, it still comes down to, do they like their boss? Do they like the company they work for? Is there opportunity for advancement in their career? Are they kind of at a cap on where they can go? The things that are now coming into play are quality of life, cultural fit. These things are now more hot topics. And I think it's a bit more of a younger generational thing. The older generation, they're so used to just coming into the office, working and being asked to do more and not getting paid more. And it's just culturally, it's the norm. Whereas I think you're getting pushed by younger generations to say, wait a minute, that shouldn't be the norm. And my mental health and my quality of life and how I work and when I work and the way I work are things that we need to discuss. So we are getting past some of the traditional norms of, you come in, you work 9 to 5, you don't ask questions, you just do your job. That might be my generation and, older generations where that's just the way it was. Things have evolved now and they've changed, and the way that we look at our careers and the way that we look at our jobs, I think post-COVID have really brought things into the light for people. So it's changing for sure. And I think it's fair to question that and challenge it. It needs to be addressed because you shouldn't always have to expect that Your boss told you to do it, so that's just the way it is. And if you don't like it, go find another job. People are finding other jobs, and people are raising their hands and saying, "I don't want to work all those hours. I don't want to work for a tyrant. This is a bad culture. I am just a number." I mean, these things come into play. So there's a lot of factors where some of the old school ways of why people were making change have evolved now. So and it's going to continue. I think for the better that. People want to be happy in their employment, and if they're going to work the hours, they want to feel like they're valued and compensated for that versus it should be expected. So we're definitely seeing a shift for sure.
Yes, I just agree. Really. Anna, Lisa, where I haven't seen your face before. What country are you?
I'm in Toronto, Canada. I work with Paul.
Oh, great to see you.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yes. I heard that you work a lot with sustainability in your country, in Canada. How do you approach the customer with these questions?
Sustainability questions?
Yes, just about the well-being, and also about like if you don't think they have the right value, then maybe they are not so into the well-being at work. How do you approach? How do you think? I said it in the morning today, my thing to do it, but how do you do it in Canada?
I mean, the way so when you mean sustainability, you mean of the team. I was thinking like environmental sustainability.
Yes,
Human resources.
I was
yes,
sure.
I understand. It's different.
I don't. No, that's fine. I understand. Yeah. So my approach is I present, like I spoke to a client once who was he had a female candidate and his team was all male. And he was worried about how she would fit in with the male team. So something I spoke to him about was, you need to think longer term about your team. And it's not only about what your team looks like today, but also if you want to go get a job in another organization, they might be looking at those things. How do you put a team together? Is it diverse, or are you just hiring your buddies? So I just kind of present it as like, this is an opportunity for you. It is a touchy subject, right? There's only so much you can tell the client. So that's just kind of how my approach is.
We always because coming into the subject with a person in front of you that are a little bit harder to speak to, if you say so, we always it doesn't matter who the customer will be, but we always put an agenda before we start the analysis meeting. The agenda that cover, of course, the competences and of course the organization and so on. But we have also four points that we are talking about: value and gender and culture, more into the culture. But what we want to do is to first send the agenda, so they know that we really want to talk about this subject more in details. And then we have opportunity to help them to rethink or do something more, if we can help them change in some way, because it's all about that we want the person to stay in that position for a long time. It's not just a 1 year recruitment and then it's over. So we put it on the agenda, and then also we talk about sustainability and diversity policy. So so we lift it up on the top, that this is important for the customer, for the client, for the employee, and then we can help them change or do more about the subject and so on. We had one, I think it was Stefan that said before, Stefan from France. He said that when we have done the analysis meeting, we can let you in, Maureen, but like helping, we think this is a good subject to talk more about. So here we have Maureen to talk about it, or you have one in your own country. So it will be not just we, like a recruitment consultant, talking about this. It will be a professional talking about how this is important. Of course, I think all of you on the screen can talk about it, but sometimes I think it makes more sense to say, hey, I'm doing the recruitment, but this person is a very good person. She talking about this specific, and she can help you in this subject more deep. Sometimes I think it's more, little bit more specific, or whatever you can call it, but it's more the point of it.
And
I
Emma,
think,
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, I think it's also important during the recruitment process. We encourage our clients to have a candidate meet employees, not just the hiring manager, etc. But to have a session, maybe at this, whilst they're in the building, to meet up with the HR director or whoever their line manager is, but also to meet a couple of the employees. I was reminded, though, after our meeting this morning, I was talking to a HR colleague, and I said, "Oh, this," and they said, "Oh, do you not remember when we had two of our people meet? They were looking to diversify their company's male orientated base, and so we had some female candidates meet these two guys who talked to the ladies about how they're very good at wellness because they have Friday afternoon pizza and beers, and then they go bowling during the week for beers and pizzas." It was exactly the opposite of what the people they were meeting wanted to hear about a culture of a business. They both, all the candidates came away with, this is a male-dominated culture, so it's finding the right people in the organization for them to meet. But the old adage of, you hear from a hiring manager that this place is nirvana, it's a perfect place to work, turns out not to be true the day you start. Yeah,
it's interesting, but it's always not always, but it needs to be the leaders in the company need to think this is important. Otherwise, it's maybe not they who put culture. It's maybe not they who put all the culture. It's maybe the employee who do it. But it needs to be addressed from the top, I think, and somehow.
But to look back at what was said this morning, we discussed a few ideas on how we would like to include that a little bit more in our practice at Taplow. And one first thing that came up during the discussions was to reflect about a due diligence framework for you in your hiring process, to maybe deep dive a little bit more about how they integrate this well-being at work and work life, the quality in the workplace. So that was first. Second was to say, okay, if we detect that there is room for improvement at a client, and that client is open to listen a little bit more about how we could help them to retain the talent we found for them, we could offer some free webinar just to create awareness. So that's step 2. So these are things Emma and I are going to talk about. But is there other ideas you have in the room? When hearing about all that, how do you reflect that in your own Taplow organization or with your client? Is there something you would like to do differently or you would need support on? Isabel, we haven't heard from you. Would you like to share on your side?
So, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello. I'm new here with Emma, a new working colleague, so I'm listening in a lot.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm officially starting after Christmas, so I'm taking this time just to getting to know Taplow and you guys and everything. So I don't know if I have a lot to bring to the table right now, since I haven't been integrating yet. But I'm looking forward to getting to know you guys more.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I think the webinar is a good idea that you mentioned. I think that's a good idea. And then just having some clients just having those conversations about long-term plans. It just helps to work closer together because you're understanding, their future needs and to help them build the right team.
Yes, I think a webinar is a good idea too. It's and it's very easy way to doing the extra thing for our clients. If of course Maureen and maybe Elaine from Australia and maybe someone else can with me do that, but I think it can be a valuable thing to give, and maybe it will be continue something they will start doing more in a process, but it will be a good thing to have it like a Taplow way, Taplow something, how we can help and how we can share information, how we can share good stories and how we do it.
Would you only have that webinar for clients, so it was a personal invite, so to speak, from a consultant to a client? Or would you have it open, promote it on the website?
We haven't I just got the invitation from Maureen, so we haven't put it together yet. But from the first session we had, it was something maybe it could be interesting to let everyone in Taplow invite different customers or so on. Maybe not open in I don't know, maybe not open in the website, but open so it's a little bit VIP to invite. But we haven't talked more about it. But I think if it's possible, it's a good idea to have and maybe 45 minutes talking about this and some numbers of statistic, so it will be more real, what's important.
Okay, perfect. So you'll follow up with that, yeah?
Yes.
And if it's more initiative, or if it's more how a good way you do it in your country, or you hear someone else doing in a good way or something, please let us know so we can maybe invite them, or we can talk more about this subject with them, so we can be better, all of us. I think it's important to share, always share, and help, and then you can have something back.
Great.
I think,
I have received some thoughts from Emmanuel, who is present here, and I will speak up for him. He's asking a few questions to challenge ourselves, and so he's asking what is differentiating Taplow from competitors in the recruitment process. What kind of let's say engagement do we have against our clients? And especially around this sustainability of the human resources. Do we have a stake in the onboarding process? So once the person has been chosen, do we have a say in the way we make sure that person is onboarded well and that his recruitment or her recruitment is actually sustainable for the candidate and for the company? Do we have some KPI to actually measure the progress and the cost afterwards? So it's challenging questions from Emmanuel just for us to reflect.
I think it's a good question, Emmanuel, and I think every country have maybe their own, but we don't have a Taplow KPI yet.
No, we don't have a standard umbrella, but local firms are dependent on local employment conditions and so forth. So here in the UK and Ireland, for example, we have a system where we guarantee candidates for a 12-month period. So we will have a review with a candidate at the end of month 1, month 3, month 6, and 12 months when we celebrate our guarantee period finishing. But it also gives us the opportunity to then go back to the client, because we've talked to the candidate, how are you getting on? How are you integrating, raising any queries, questions with the client, the decision maker, and also hearing their viewpoint on how the candidate's getting on. But it varies from country to country, dependent on local employment terms and conditions.
We have the same in Sweden, and we had also this year we started a sustainability premium, sustainability discount. And what is that? And of course that is something we can talk a long time about, but it's about to put it in the proposal, to put up the sustainability, and it's not just environmental, it's also sustainability, how you work with diversity, with gender, with culture. We can, it's for me or for us open for to how to put this with the client, but we have a session in our proposal that stands for what we work with and what's important and how we work intern and extern with sustainability, and then I, in the offer, in the proposal, if I have seen the policy about diversity and the policy on sustainability, and of course if it's something that is not just a policy, it's something they work with, is I give them a discount of, I don't know, 10%, or it depends on what it is, but it's our way to give them a comfortable that they work with a company that take this serious like they do, and if they work very hard with sustainability and with environmental or whatever it is in this very big scope of questions, we do our thing so they can feel comfortable to work with us, and we give them discount. So that is one way to do it, to just put it up on the agenda again. So I think it's good, and of course some potential customers were, why don't I get any discount on this? No, but it depends on. But it's often I have a good answer that I don't see it now, but maybe in the next recruitment we do that. We do a discount because I hear you will work with it, but I don't think you are there now. If I can be that like
Open.
tough.
Okay.
Bold.
I see the time flying now. So I would offer we wrap up unless somebody has something. Paul, you wanted to say something? I just don't want to make sure I don't interrupt you.
Yeah, I think part of it with the business is I think we have to be willing to walk away from potentially bad business and bad partnerships. Too often than not, as recruiters, we look at the fee and we take the fee and we don't really care what the client does. But the reality is it affects your ability to attract talent in the future. And if they see that you're working with bad organizations and you place somebody, bad news travels a lot faster than good news does. And so I think we have to be willing to identify if we're dealing with a bad employer and maybe make the call on that. I had one probably about 6 months ago. I had to call him out, and basically we kind of had to walk after that based on who he was hiring, how he was determining it. Let's just say DE&I was not involved in the process, and so I called him out on it, and we don't work together anymore. And I was comfortable with that. I didn't want to put my name and our brand towards that, and quite honestly, subject candidates to that. So I think we have to be cognizant that it's not necessarily about the fee and the money. It's about, is this good for business? Somebody mentioned a point earlier about meeting more people within the organization, which I think is great. One of the things I always counsel candidates on is I don't get anyone a job. I present the options and I want you to do your research. It's just as much an interview for the candidate as it is the employer, and they need to understand that, especially at a senior executive level, regardless at any level, but definitely at that level. I placed the general manager. She starts in January, and she went through a very exhaustive process, and I let her know it would be long. And I think as she started to go through the process, said, "Wow, there's a lot of people that I'm meeting." And I said, "I know, and it's done for a reason." And as she got to the end of the process, she understood why. And she met a lot of people and said, "I understand their culture. I understand who they are. They're all consistent. The messaging is consistent. Who they are is consistent. This is an organization I want to join." So sometimes the process can take longer, but through the evolution of the process, she identified that that's where she wanted to be. So just a couple things to think about that. Clients, it's nice to have clients. It's nice to have people that are paying the bills, but if they're not good for business, they're not good for your brand. You got to decide, do I really want to work with them in the future? And it's never easy to say no, but sometimes it's in the best interest of the business moving forward.
Thanks a lot, Paul, for these words of closing. Mark, you want to be the one wrapping up?
Am I wrapping up? Well, thank you for throwing that curveball at me. I think it is complex. As Paul was saying, we have, and I look back on my career, I can name the projects where I thought at the time I shouldn't do this, but I did it. But also I've learned that when you push clients for information on things like this, they don't push back. They're actually very open towards discussing it. And they're very open if they have the right mindset to allow the candidates to meet employees, etc. So I think that, our job, when I look here locally, if we stand above Manpower or Robert Half or those types of entities, is that we push the clients as well as the candidates. So we will, this has been recorded. It will be meshed together with the European meeting that happened earlier today. There will be some social media posts, and actually from some of the feedback that we've already gotten, we're going to be pushing our agency to do more deeper dive posts on social media about these things, to create the awareness out there that we are cognizant of these things.
And we will be sharing the slides. You will share the slides, Mark, right? Like you did this morning. Yeah. Absolutely. And but no, thank you for partaking. Post-Christmas in the new year, in January, we're holding a session on a different topic, but we'll come back to you probably in the new year, of when that will be.
We have the date already booked, but I think it will be like an invitation before Christmas, and then it's gonna be, and then it's gonna be in February, and March, and April, hopefully. So, and also if you have interesting contacts, network that you want to invite and to Taplow, and maybe they can do business with our customers somewhere. So you can just send me an email, and I will check that up.
Thank you, Emma.
And we'll keep you posted on the idea of the webinar thing. And if any questions come in on the wellness at work and then psychosocial risks, you feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you, Maureen, for this session.
Thanks, you Maureen. All. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Congratulations.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.